Coming to you live from our studios here in Accra, this is The Pulse. Coming up this afternoon on the program, Ghana risks losing out on foreign investors as ratings agency Moody's further downgrades the country to junk status, warning investors risk losing out in a debt restructuring program should they decide to transact business with Ghana. Stay with us as we break down the figures for you and look at the implications to the already struggling economy. Also this afternoon, Trades Union Congress wants it will reject the government salary projections in the 2023 budget statement as government needs organized labor for fresh talks on salaries for next year. Will engage organized labor as they insist they will not compromise on their demands for a 60% hike in base pay.
There's no way organized labor is also going to accept what has been put in the budget. But if the government has made up its mind that if that is the way he thinks he can actually force something down the throat of workers, then we are in for a big fight.
We'll explore the option shortly, and barely 24 hours after altercations between a nurse and the father of a medical doctor on housemanship at the Malaysia Government Hospital. Management of the facility says the squabble is taking a toll on nurses and doctors, with some of them battling depression.
We need the needful to be done as soon as possible so that we don't also put our patients at risk, because we are all going on strike. That is, we are not coming to work if the needful is not done.
Well, there's more here on The Pulse as we explore the implications to healthcare delivery in the hospital as the National Service Scheme Secretariat begins investigations into the conduct of the Ashanti Regional Director, Alex Opokumensa. Don't forget that this is The Pulse. As always, is brought to you by Global's Communities Dignilu, affordable safe sanitation. Don't forget that we're streaming live on all of our social media handles. It's at JoyNews on TV. Feel free to be a part of the show, also on YouTube. This is JoyNews, independent, fearless, and credible journalism. I am Blessed Sogah, and welcome to The Pulse. Well, let's start off with matters relating to the economy because Ghana risks losing out on foreign investors as ratings agency Moody's has further downgraded the country to junk status, warning investors risk losing out in a debt restructuring program should they decide to transact business with the Republic of Ghana. Data analyst and a member of our research desk, Isaac Kofi is joining us with, of course, the latest on this. There's a need for us to get more on the figures and try and understand what's informing all of this position. Mind you, this is about the 11th time that we're witnessing such a downgrade within just a year. So what's accounting for this, and probably what could be done in terms of averting this possible crisis on the international market? First of all, Isaac, there's a need for us to explore what's informing this. So help us understand the implications of this. We do know that indeed we're in the range of a C category. What can you say about what's happening to our status now? Even as we work to, of course, understand these details with Isaac Kofi on your screens now, you have obviously excerpts of what it is that the indications will be for us as a country. We'll be breaking all of the figures down for you. Just give us a few minutes, but as we get that on your screens right now. So here's where we are currently. AA2, we also have a CA, that's where we're being downgraded to. And obviously, if you take a look at this, this has an implication because this is a rating action. Moody's is now downgrading Ghana from this to the CA outlook as we have it. And it's part of the conclusion that they're drawing out of the whole report that we're receiving now. Isaac Kofi is here now. We'll be speaking to Professor Lord Mensah shortly, who would be providing us with his expert thoughts and analysis on this. But Kofi, just help us understand really what's happening here. We're seeing a CA, and for those who are not technically, literate, let me put it that way, in terms of understanding what the implications are. There's a need for us to of course, explain that to them. So let's start off from where we are right now.
Right, so there you have it on the touch screen. We've moved from a CAA2 now to a CA. Now, if you look at the Moody's, the credit rating scale, you can actually see that the bottom three is actually from CAA to C. So we are just one step ahead, away from the dreaded C category. Now, if you are, your sovereign debts are actually tagged as unsustainable or C, what does this simply mean? It simply means that, obligations rated CA are highly speculative and are likely in or very near to default with some, perspective of recovery of principal and interest. We saw the finance minister actually acknowledging that they have actually done, a debt sustainability analysis, and they've known that our debt levels are currently unsustainable. And so what will government do? But the last time we were at this point, this was at the beginning of the year, just look at where we were and then where we are now. Just, around, 14 January, this year, we're around B- with a negative outlook. That was according to Fitch. And, S&P was B-, a stable outlook. Moody's was CAAA1 with a stable outlook. Now we are at, a CA. We've moved, about 3 or 2 steps away from where we were at the beginning of the year. So if you look at this, right from the beginning of it, this is actually the first time, it's unprecedented to have such a number of downgrades in less than 11 months. So you can see it over there. The first to come in the scene was Fitch, 14th of this, January 2022, followed by Moody's. There was S&P, Fitch followed. There was another Fitch. Then we have also Moody's followed with 2 downgrades in less than 3 months. But there's something that, they actually outline in the report that we really have to focus on. Why are they actually downgrading Ghana's sovereign debt? It's just because we've announced in our 2023 budget that government is considering a debt restructuring. And they believe that if there's a debt restructuring, then the private sector will lose heavily. We'll be looking at the reason why, probably Moody's feel the private sector will probably lose. If you look at this chart from the finance ministry, we actually gleaned this data from the finance ministry's annual debt report for 2021. Now, let's look at those that government is owing as of 2021. If you look at those who are holding government securities, so if you break this down, domestic investors were holding about $152.4 billion, Ghana cedis, which is about 84% of the entire debt that we have. If you break this down, the banking sector alone had about 91 billion of this 152 billion securities that the domestic sector is holding. Non-bank sector about 61.4 billion. So imagine there's a haircut, or imagine there's going to be a debt restructuring. You can imagine the kind of impact that it will have on such a space. And if you look at foreign investors, about 28.9 billion, which is about 16% of the entire securities that they have with government. So if there's a downgrade, what does it simply mean? It tells you that if you don't do anything about it, or you do not get any further foreign liquidity, there's going to be pressure on your foreign reserves. And if there's pressure on your foreign reserve, then you should know that your currency will depreciate. And when your currency depreciates, it means that you're going to use, you have to find more of your local currencies to buy few dollars. Fuel prices are likely to go up. And when fuel prices go up, you definitely will know that transport fares will also go up. You have price of goods and services, and your ordinary kinky and fish probably go up.
Isaac Ofeyeje, helping us with the figures. So let me bring in now Professor Lord Mensah, economist and associate professor at the Department of Finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Thank you, sir, for your time. What does this mean for an average Ghanaian out there? Yes, indeed, we may see fuel prices up. It's already up anyway, but a further downgrade, actually, what would that mean? Prof, you'd have to unmute so we can hear you.
Yeah, so the signal is clear. I mean, being downgraded from CAA to a CA, I mean, it is in the speculative region, for which at the end of the day, it's more or less default is imminent. And I believe this is as a result of the possible debt restructuring that, that is looming. You see, this rating is purely for creditors. It's creditors that feeds on this. And what it tells you is that the likelihood of government, borrowing becomes very, very, minimal. Ability to raise money keeps on reducing. And that will feed on to the budget that we just read. If you look at the budget that was read, the government has declared about 61 billion, financing. And purely the financing is going to come from the domestic market. So if you look at this, it tells you that anybody that is prepared to lend to the government may have to think twice, may have to look at what is happening and the possibility of, what his money can do or the likelihood of government paying back. And this is what the rating signifies. And if government is not able to raise funds, it turns out that possibly some of the promises that has been put up in the budget will be difficult to be fulfilled. So it will be a budget that we've read, but then not achieving anything. So it has a way of building up into our lives because at the end of the day, if government is not able to raise enough money in terms of foreign currency and in terms of local currency, some debt obligations of the government will be difficult to be satisfied. And when it happens like that, government may have to entice the market by raising interest rates. And that is when you see the policy rate that keeps on going up here and there, that will feed on interest rate structures, building up into treasury bill rate, for which government will be squeezing the private sector. In the end, the private sector will not have room to, operate, to create jobs here and there. So it will be only government that will turn up to be in business. And that business will not necessarily make any impact because we know government is business. Government business, normally, sometimes the returns on it, to measure it becomes difficult. So it is quite tight if you are downgraded in that manner. But, from last year to this year, we've not done anything different to secure our, rating to make sure that at least our ratings are maintained. Let's see going forward, if you look at the IMF program that we are about to have, for the purpose of credit support that we'll get from this IMF, we are likely to get that credibility and possibly our ratings will start be doing well. So I believe that policy support, if we get it from the IMF, we'll find a way to, improve on our lives. But for now,
the last time we witnessed a downgrade, we had from the leadership of the economic management team, largely disputing some of the assessments that were going on.
No, I think the trend is clear. This time they won't come out again. Last time I mentioned that for them to come out creates more chaos in the minds of the investor or in the minds of the creditor. So once you've gotten that transition of being downgraded consistently for about 3 times within the year, you should know that it truly reflects the economy. So I don't think this time the economic management team will come out to dispute with the trend.
And I guess the big question out there is, do we have a way out of this?
Yeah, we do. It all boils down to how this IMF program will go. We are likely to get, apart from the financial support, there is that kind of, soft benefits that we can get from the IMF program, which is the policy credibility. And, anytime we find ourselves with IMF, we try to be in line when it comes to our financial management. So with IMF policing us, we are likely to have that kind of, credibility, and that will build up into our, credit rating. So there is a way out. It depends on where we get the IMF program and how, we stay disciplined financially in the years ahead.
In terms of the 2023 budget, how can that be best suited or perhaps tailored towards addressing some of these concerns?
I have mentioned it earlier that, looking at this downgrade and then the financing gap that the government has created, it might not be feasible to achieve it. And I can tell you that would derail, the effectiveness of the budget. And of course, we understand that budgets are projections, and there's a likelihood that we may not necessarily, meet some of the target. Government intends to raise about 61 billion and financing, and with the foreign market frozen on us, obviously is going to be the domestic market. And I can tell you that, looking at the interest rate levels, government will struggle to raise money in the local environment. And so I foresee a situation where Bank of Ghana may intervene to keep on financing government, deficit.
And in the last few hours,
that will still keep inflation high.
And in the last few hours, of course, the International Monetary Fund is giving us indication that they will be in town. Negotiations or engagements may resume tomorrow. How crucial will some of these interventions be in trying to find a way out?
Yeah, very, very important. It is crucial. I mean, they need to understand that with this downgrade, we find ourselves in a dire situation. So if they have to speed up any package for us, they have to be quick as possible. Other than that, the economy will be declared, we declare default. And if we are declared default, that is the end of it.
Well, let's just go back to, of course, the touch screens now. Prof, just hold on for us briefly so we can assess some more issues that are unfolding out of this. Kofi Eje, there's the dynamics of what's happening, for instance, to the haircut. I guess that's been a big conversation out there.
Absolutely.
You're just giving us the dynamics in terms of what our deficits are and what, of course, the percentage of foreign investors are, and what interest they are holding, and what Ghanaians are equally holding. But beyond that as well, there's the issue about our expenditure and our deficit. So let's touch on that side as well.
Well, just like Prof said, this will actually be the first time that we'll be spending anything above 200 billion Ghana cedis. In our entire history, our expenditure has never reached this point. So we are projecting 2023 to spend $205.43 billion and raise an amount of 143.96 billion, leaving a deficit, just like Prof said, of 61.47 billion Ghana cedis. We ask ourselves, how will government finance this 61.47 billion when it is more or less like completely shut out of the international fund markets? Usually we used to get about $3 billion every year from the the Eurobond markets to help boost the economy. But now we do not have access to that liquidity. But we've seen government borrowing heavily from the domestic market, where people experts believe that government is actually crowding out the private sector, because you see government borrowing heavily from the domestic market. Right. And is using a chunk of that borrowing to finance already existing loans.
Prof, at this time, as we wrap up on the conversation, how do we deal with the expenditure argument?
I think we may have to be, realistic. You see, if you read the budget carefully, you understand that some expenditure lines needs to be sacrificed. For instance, you take the U-Start. In situations like this, you don't go, into, innovations and looking out for risky businesses to finance. No entity or no sovereign entity will do that. So I think there are some areas that we have to really look into the budget. Possibly, when it comes to the budget review, we may have to sacrifice these ones.
Professor Lord Mensah, thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. And of course, as we talk about issues relating to our economy, it's day 2 of that debate on the 2023 budget statement. And the chamber for 2 consecutive days has been partially empty since the budget debate started. We're learning, for instance, that quite a number of the members of parliament who are absent from the minority side of the House so far, of course, many of them are the majority MPs carrying out their threat to boycott government's business over their calls for Ken Ofori-Atta to be sacked. It's one of the possible implications for what we're saying. But let's get the true picture from our parliamentary correspondent, Kweku Asante, who's joining us now. And Kweku, just give us a picture of how the absence of these MPs is actually affecting debate on the floor of the House.
So, Blaise, the debate is going on as planned. Both the minority and the majority leaders have always been presenting the specific persons who will be debating the debate to the speaker, and he has been calling them out. But at this point, we cannot say necessarily that the empty seats are due to the NPP MPs who said they were going to boycott proceedings. Because indeed, we've seen Honorable Andy Appiah-Kubi. He's been on the floor all throughout. And he's just gone by, he has made his own debate in favor of the approval of the budget. We've also heard from John Osei-Frimpong. He's one of the NPP MPs who have asked for Finance Minister Kenneth Ofori-Atta to be sacked. He has also made his own debate, his own arguments in support of the debate. So at this point, it's been a bit difficult trying to pinpoint why exactly the debate is going the way it's going, with a number of seats very much empty. As of now, they're not even up to 40 MPs on both sides of the House. In there, a number of the seats are empty. As of this morning, when the debate started, I counted about 32 seats on 32 MPs on the majority side who were present in the House. The number did not go up; it has been going down rather, and it's affecting the flow of the debate, because I mean the persons ordinarily who.
Quick question to there. Of course, it appears we're having some challenges connecting with Kwekwen getting the very last parts of the point. But it appears that obviously the MPs, not a good attendance there in Parliament. But Kweku, we lost you briefly. You were just making the point about some issues that came up on day 2 of the budget debates.
So we've been hearing from Honorable.
Terrible network there to Kweku Santi, but joining us via Zoom now is Professor Kwabena Safo Kantaka, a parliamentary discourse analyst and a fellow at Odikro. He's helping us do this discussion. Thanks for your time. Of course, the MPs from the majority side are visibly absent from Parliament. Do you feel this is an indication that, of course, the division that we saw, the calls for the finance minister to be dismissed, could possibly be playing out there? Prof, if you can hear me, I'm just asking if you feel the threat earlier from some of the majority NPP MPs is what's playing out here, possibly a reason why we're not seeing such a huge attendance. Day 2 of the budget debate in Parliament.
Well, thank you very much, and let me say good afternoon. Well, it looks quite obvious that that is what is happening. Of course, we can talk about 2 issues here in terms of trying to go by their decision not to participate in government business. And then on the back of it, what was presented by the minority side in terms of the censure motion. And so 2 things are happening. And in terms of they not being in Parliament to debate the budget statement, it's obvious that it is a matter of implementing what they said some time ago, the threat to not participate in government business. So that quite obviously sounds obvious to us that that is what they are trying to do. It is a message they have sent. And of course, when they had the press conference, the 80 MPs, when they had the press conference, they were clear in their minds what they wanted to do. And we were also clear. And I remember people coming out to praise them for taking a very bold decision. But there were some excuses. The president gave some reasons why he thought they should wait for the finance minister to finish the IMF negotiations and then perhaps present the budget statement after that. Maybe they could think about taking a decision on the finance minister. And up to now, after presenting the budget statement, we haven't seen any action from the presidency. So perhaps it is a way of saying that, yes, we said it, we are not going to back down, we stand by our decision not to participate. So I think that is very clear. And of course, the other side of it is also the censure motion. The 2 coming at the same time. And then they're saying that, well, we don't want to be part of that motion to censure the finance minister. And so the 2 coming at the same time, we can say, yes, the censure motion may have taken them out of Parliament, as well as the decision not to participate in government business. So in terms of the censure motion, I would say that my interpretation of the action of the majority side is that, you see, in parliamentary politics, normally the majority wouldn't like the minority to take decisions for them. I remember in the UK Parliament, for example, between 2000 1991 and 2004, there were about 6 censure motions presented by opposition MPs, and they were all shut down. As far as I remember, the only one that went through was somewhere in 1979 when Margaret Thatcher was the opposition leader. And even that vote was 310 as against 311, only 1 vote difference, and the opposition had it. So in that sense, what happened was that Callaghan, at the time who was the prime minister, they had to call for earlier elections, and the conservatives later won the elections. So what is happening is that, yes, the majority have said that we want the minister out, but it is not for the opposition or the minority side to decide for us which way to go by this. The two sides have a common goal, to get the minister out. But what means do we get him out? So you see, there is politics here, and it has a lot of political implications for both sides. If they go by the censure motion, it will mean that it is a minority that has pushed the majority to do that. And so that will obviously be a decision of the minority. People will feel that, yes, the majority has been decided for or have been decided for. And this is what I think the majority side is trying to resist. Of course, if the finance minister is not there tomorrow, they will be happy. But they wouldn't be happy if that thing is led by a minority. This parliamentary politics is always about getting credit for one side. So it looks to me that the majority side doesn't want the minority side to take the credit for what is going to happen. So it's several ways. We have several ways. You know, in our Ghanaian parlance, we say that we have several ways of killing a cat. The decision to ask the finance minister out was vehemently proposed and presented by the majority side. And then after that, it will appear to the majority side that, oh, the minority want to take advantage of that position taken by the majority. And we are not going to allow that. And so if the finance minister has to go, it will be by our decision. And I think that is what is panning out. That is what I see. So yes, 2 things. The censure motion has taken the majority side out of parliament. At the same time, taking advantage of that, they are saying that, yes, we initially said that we are not going to take part in deliberating government business in the House because the president hasn't taken into consideration our plea. And so we are going to go by this. So it looks like they are killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And this is what I gather from the action of the majority side.
Our parliamentary correspondent, our parliamentary correspondent, Kwekwe indicating to us there earlier that, of course, for instance, Apia Kupi, who's one of the key lawmakers pushing for Kanu Fariata's dismissal, is, for instance, engaging in the debates on the floor of the House. So if were indeed the case that this could be a signal, a silent protest that we're seeing on the part of the MPs, he should have been leading that charge.
Yes, the one leading that charge. You see, as I said, this is politics. Sometimes there are several ways you can maneuver your way. There are several ways you can tell people that we don't want what you are doing. There are several ways to do the same thing. Yes, the one leading the charge is taking part in the discussions. But behind the scenes, we don't even know what may have taken place, the discussions that may have taken place. So by all means, up to this point, the majority side may have had or might have had several meetings discussing the way forward. So it would be strange to me if they haven't had that kind of discussion. And they may have taken certain decisions behind the scenes. Of course, within groups, even among the 80 or so MPs, there may still be differences up to this stage because of the fact that the president may have intervened. Other people may have intervened. Discussions have gone on. We've allowed the finance minister to do the presentation and all that. Yes, some may still be saying that, well, where we are now, we can still debate it whilst we are still looking at getting the finance minister out. Some may say no. If I say no, it is no. So it is a complex scenario that we have here.
Finally,
And
we're
so
hearing,
becoming-
and finally, we're hearing, for instance, from the Deputy Finance Minister, Benazir Asari, indicating that Ghana will be on the losing side if the minority does not join hands with the majority side to pass the budget. I'm just wondering to what extent there'll be dire consequences for the nation if we don't go ahead to expedite the process to approve this budget.
Yes, it's obvious. It means that next year the government is not going to get the fiscal policy in place to kickstart its programs. Because it's just like saying that, yes, we don't have money to run your business. You don't have money to run the country. Because it is upon the approval of the budget statement that the finance minister can act, can take money to pay salaries, can take money to pay contractors to do all kinds of things. So what it means that if you don't give approval to the budget statement, right from 1st January 2023, the government is not going to get money to work unless they go through some other special means to get something to work. That is why the minister is raising that issue. It has serious consequences for us as a country if we don't get the statement passed. And I think that is obvious.
Thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. Let's stay on Parliament because the NDC minority there are welcoming the reintroduction of the road tolls in the 2023 budget. Government stopped the collection of the road tolls in November 2021 after an announcement in the 2022 budget. But Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in the 2023 budget announced a return of the tolls as part of government revenue measures on selected roads. Debating the statement, minority spokesperson on the Roads and Transports Committee, Governance Kwame Agboja, whilst welcoming the development, indicated government had been populist in cancelling the tolls in the first place.
On page 40, paragraph 462, we welcome the decision by the road minister to bring back the road tolls. We take no pride in saying we told you so, Mr. Speaker. It was populist, it was unnecessary, we told you, and they were there shouting, oh, we are going to do it because we had e-levy. Today, we want to bring the road toll. But Mr. Speaker, some members of the party that belong to the other side had the courage to tell you that if you want a road toll, you should go and collect it yourself. Today, they have brought a law here to say they are bringing it back. Mr. Speaker, on principle, we supported it that it should remain that time. We are still supporting it that they should bring it back. But there will be no blank checks. If you bring the road toll back, all the accruals must go into road maintenance. Otherwise, we are not going to support you. That is why we say decap the road fund. So, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of Temamoto Way, they said, we sat here and said time and again that what the minister was calling a contract between the Ghana government and Motor Angels is not a fit for purpose contract. You cannot sign a contract with a foreign company without coming to this house. Article 1781 and 5 doesn't allow you to do that. Mr. Speaker, we welcome the decision of the road minister to come back to the house with an appropriate package that to build the Accra Temamoto Way. When we look at that package and it's fit for purpose, Mr. Speaker, we would support that. Mr. Speaker, lastly, on the issue of indebtedness, Mr. Speaker, Ghanaian contractors, patriotic citizens are in serious problem. As we read this budget, there is no indication as to how we are going to pay the 12 billion or so that we owe Ghanaian contractors. Some of them are in this room, some of them are relatives, some of them are citizens of this country, some of them have sold their houses, they have collateralized everything. Mr. Speaker, we must find a way of helping the government to pay these contractors. And the last.
And thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. When we return, we'll talk about the labour agitations and the demands for some 60% rise in salaries. We'll talk about that shortly. And you're welcome back to The Pulse. This afternoon, labour unions in the country are prepared to face off with government as they promise not to relent on their demand for a 60% increment in their base pay for the 2023 working year. Both government and the various unions have failed to reach an agreement even after government revised its offer from 8% to 15% in separate meetings. Today, the groups are meeting for the fourth time with hopes of finalizing that deal. Let's get the latest. My colleague Michael Ashale is at the Ministry of Health where the meeting is taking place. Michael, give us some updates. What's the latest there? Because we know that TUC has sounded the alarm bells, the trials, that actually there will be fireworks, as they're indicating at the meeting, if nothing is done about their concerns.
Blessed, I'm actually struggling to hear you, but I mean, if you're asking me for the latest, though, what I can tell you right now is that the meeting is under. We started at exactly 2 p.m. and government have been meeting the labor union. So on the side of government, though, you have Ignatius Bafuwa, who is the Minister for Employment and Labor Relations, together with his deputy, who are also here, Bright Rakubobi, I beg your pardon, who's also here together with him. Now, from the Finance Ministry, we have the Deputy Minister herself, who's here representing the Ministry of Finance. Her name is Abena Ose Asari. Then you have from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, the CEO is here, Ben Atta. These people are representing the side of government here. Now, in terms of the labor unions that are here willing to negotiate with government, you have right from the top the Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress. He's Joshua Ansa. He's here representing some labor unions here. You also have from the educational front, you have Teachers Educational Workers Union Tewu, represented by Ambrose Yao Kwajuja and his General Secretary. They are both here. And then Public Sector Workers Union, Bernard Eje, the General Secretary for that union, is also here. Then for ClockSAG, one of the foremost civil servant unions, also here. Their president is here, who is in the person Dr. Bampo Ado. He's here. Then you have the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Isaac Owusu, representing NAT, is also here. And then finally, you have the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, represented by their president, Perpetual Ofori Ampofo. But I said finally, but that's a final one. The Ghana Medical Association, their president, who I haven't seen here in the last 3 meetings today, is here in person himself. That is Frank Cerebral himself. So on the side of labor, these are the people that are representing labor unions. And then from government, we heard from, you saw Finance Minister, Deputy Finance Minister, beg your pardon, and then Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and then from the Labor Ministry.
Do we know how long this meeting will last? Because the last time, of course, there was a deadlock, and so that meeting ended abruptly. What signs are we seeing today in terms of the cordiality between both parties?
So, it's not exactly known when this meeting will actually come to an end. It really depends on the situation. So in the last 2 meetings, you'd realize that some of the there was a challenge with venue 1, so it made it practically impossible for all of them to meet and negotiate. However, the meeting ended abruptly because government again was not willing to move forward. So that meeting that we had government mention between 10 to 12% in that particular meeting. Now, so that meeting ended in an hour and a half later. The last meeting before today's own went on for a very long time, well past 2 hours. But again, there was no decision that was taken. So it is not exactly clear what will happen. And at the time, not forgetting that government was yet to read the budget in Parliament. So there was some bit of haste and urgency attached to that particular negotiation. But even for that, there was no finality on where the two parties were going to see eye to eye. So today's meeting is expected to be the final one, where both parties will eventually come to an agreement what percentage exactly they will settle on. But if that is the case, today being the last meeting, then this meeting is expected to drag on, with the labor unions not willing to come down any further from 60%. If we speak to groups like the TUT, they tell you that their initial agreement amongst themselves was to start at 160% increment in their base pay. They have now settled for 60%, and they are not willing to do any further reduction to it. Government, on their part, however, started from 8% in the last 3 meetings, came down to 10, 12, and in the last meeting, they said 15%. But these groups say that is nothing to write home about, and the negotiation should not be starting from there. So from all these indications, it's not expected that this meeting will end anytime soon. Probably the least they could be doing is sometime after 5 p.m.
Do we know if government has revised the 15% proposal they're making? Because from the last meeting, that was key on the table. They started off with 12. Of course, reviewed the figure somewhere to around 15%. Do we know if they've changed their stance again?
I mean, everybody is tight-lipped about it, but to tell you what's really happening. So the meeting for since 2 p.m. That started just about a few minutes ago before I came to talk to you. The government delegation actually excused themselves from the meeting in the auditorium to go and further talks amongst themselves as government delegation to see whether they can agree to whatever decision is being taken in there or whatever percentages are being thrown around. In terms of the numbers that are being given today, we are not exactly sure. But definitely when the meeting closes, we will know what both parties are going to say. But before the meeting, though, all those that we heard from, especially from the Labour side, said that it is 60 or nothing. The easiest indication that, or the laziest indication they gave us actually was that government should come to a point where they can begin to negotiate. And these are the words of some of the Labour unions. So I think that some of them are with the indication that it should be at least half of their demands, 30%. That is where they are willing to at least start their negotiations, if for nothing at all. So it is yet to be known the exact percentage that government will be willing to give this time. Not forgetting that the budget has now been already read and is being discussed in Parliament. So it will be probably difficult for government to go outside of their stated means or their allocation for wages and salaries. This is a conversation that was also anticipated before the last meeting. So there was expectation that that meeting would have brought finality to the percentages and what was going to be for the next working year. But again, it will be difficult given that government is now tied, not forgetting their engagement with the IMF with some expectations on their part, expected that they will be sticking to a particular range of expenditure so that the IMF will see some seriousness on their part as government and then give them some or extend to them some funding for the 2023 year. It will be difficult, Blessed, I want to say, at this point in time, what government will be offering and what the labor unions are willing to also accept.
My colleague Michael Niashele, live from the Ministry of Health, giving us the latest on ongoing negotiations. We'll definitely get back to you, Michael, for the latest. Meanwhile, President of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Justice Youngson, says government has created a problem by not reaching an agreement with Labour earlier. He believes the current mess was preventable.
These are some of the problems that sometimes we create for ourselves. We had a whole period within which we could have sorted these things out. We waited to the last end, and now you can see that we're on a collision course. It's clear from what Joshua is saying that Labour will never accept certain things to be forced down their throats. So most likely we are going to go on a collision course. Is that fair to all of us? I think sometimes it's the way we go about handling the situations. I can agree, government is under pressure to fix the problems. But Labour is also under pressure to sort their micro-level problems. There's a macro and there's a micro.
I've been to before pressure. I have to eat before I can work.
So it's a very dicey situation, but ultimately, I think Labour expects that we'll also go home with what is decent and what can keep us going. We all know the economic indices and how they're affecting everybody. In real value terms, I have lost over 60% of the value of my
inflation, depreciation,
all those bits. Yeah. So,
and whatever you have invested, everything is gone.
So if people have actually more or less been compelled under the circumstances to fall on their little savings and it's all been dissipated, And then going forward, these problems are also not over. They are not going to get anything decent. How are you expecting them to go to work? So it's going to be a very difficult.
Well, barely 24 hours after confrontations between a nurse and the father of the medical doctor on housemanship at the Mensha Government Hospital went viral, management says the squabble is taking a toll on nurses and doctors in the hospital, with some of them battling depression. The medical doctor and nurse at the center of the row have actually been asked to go home as they receive psychological support. Lab FM's Erastus Zaradonko was in the hospital earlier today to assess the impact on healthcare delivery and filed this report.
So we are here at the Mensha Government Hospital. This is the surgical ward, and this is where the conversation or the communication or the bad blood, call it anyhow, this is where it happened. And so we are told that the NSS boss entered the surgical ward from here. You can see it's a very busy place, lots of nurses attending to patients here and there. You can count about 6 to 7 beds in this room full of patients, another room in here full of patients.
I came here to deliver an item.
So this nurse who followed the phone conversation between the doctor and the nurse has been recounting what actually happened.
She complained that she has called the doctor earlier, but she didn't pick. She called a colleague of hers before she called back. And then when she called, the nurse said, "I've been calling you, but you are not picking." And she said she was at church. And she said, "It's not today, it's since yesterday, so please come to surgical ward." And then doctor asked, "What am I coming to do there? Why should I come there?" And she said, "But you are a doctor, so come to surgical ward." Out of anger, she cut the call. Nothing went, nobody insulted anybody. So the doctor called back and I received it. And I told the doctor that she should come to surgical ward. This is the issue. There is a drug which she's supposed to delete it because she's the one who entered it. And then she said someone will come and do it for her. That was all.
So the issue about whether she wrote a prescription for a baby with convulsion and all that is not true. This is an adult surgical ward. How is the situation here yourself?
Honestly, everything is calm over here. So, in fact, we are hoping to hear from the house officer, like the doctor in question.
Okay, so she is a doctor. Lots of nurses in here who are currently working. I want to find out from a few of them how they are feeling at the moment.
We are still doing our nursing activities and doing whatever we have to do for our patients. And we are working in harmony. You can even see the doctor around. But then, as we all know, justice delayed is justice denied. We just want justice to prevail. That's what we are looking for.
Where justice means?
Justice means that the man will have to come and do the needful. Yes.
You want an apology from him?
Exactly. That is what we are looking for.
In person?
In person. Yeah. And also a written apology as well. Yeah.
But your head office is demanding that from tomorrow, if he doesn't resign, you guys are laying down your tools. Is that what is going to happen here?
Exactly. That is what we are looking for. So we need the needful to be done as soon as possible so that we don't also put our patients at risk. Because we are all going on strike. That is, we are not coming to work if the needful is not done.
Lessons have been learnt by the Mensha Government Hospital Management. Dr. Kamaruddin Koku Hussein is medical superintendent of the hospital.
We need to give orientation to all new staff, whether the first time that they are in, we should just do that. We shouldn't wait for a whole group to be in before we start. Because as soon as the house officer comes in, he or she starts work. So instead of us waiting, because our plan orientation is supposed to be done next week. So instead of us waiting, we could have done for each one of them who comes in, and then we give them some short orientation before they start work. I think that is the part that we would need to look at, and then we'll take it up. We will not recommend them to be taken away from here. We think this is just an issue that we can handle. So the doctor will continue to work here. The nurse will also continue to work here.
Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
Well, the National Service Scheme Secretariat has invited the Ashanti Regional Director, Alex Opoku-Mensah, for questioning as it begins investigations into his conduct, as the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association is rejecting his apology on social media and insists actually that he must be relieved of his post. Osei Esibe Entry is the Executive Director for the National Service Scheme.
Yesterday we heard of what happened. It was rather unfortunate to hear such words coming out from the director of the National Service Scheme. But later we heard that he has apologized, and we have also had opportunity of reading the apology from our director for Ashanti region. But yesterday, immediately the news started flashing across the media landscape. What we did immediately was to invite him. So yesterday I invited him to proceed to headquarters, where he came immediately for us to also listen to his side of the story. So even though he has apologized to the nurse, and we are not just allowing the apology to be enough. So he is going to appear before a committee of inquiry, which is going to be announced today. So he's definitely going to meet that committee of inquiry for us to know exactly what prompted him to do that, and after that we will come out, we will take an appropriate action.
And so while this is happening, will he still be at post, or he's asked to step aside while you do these?
Well, like I said, in fact, he's been meeting management this morning. Okay. Yeah, because you cannot just come out with a committee of inquiry whilst you've not listened to him. Yesterday he proceeded, he came, but he came at a time that was outside the working hours. And as such, we've arranged that we are meeting him immediately after the interview. We are meeting him to listen to his side of the story, so as to be able to even have a good terms of reference for the committee that will be meeting to interrogate him further.
Right.
Let's bring in Love FM's Erastus Saridonko. Erastus, you are out of the hospital now, but what can you report as to the situation there? Erastus, you would have to unmute so we can get the point you're making.
Yeah, I must say that tempers have calmed down, though nurses are still angry. The reaction I get from them is that they are too happy with what the man did. They showed me a very congested surgical ward where the man came in, heaped invectives on the nurses there. They say it's demoralizing enough. They have seen that he has sent an apology on social media. They are even more angered by that because they feel that he should come personally if he means business to where he spewed the invectives to correct what he did and be able to offer an unqualified apology in front of them, to come with a written apology as well. And they say that will be suitable. But then, that notwithstanding, they are also saying that they back the front of the Registered Nurses and Midwives Association that if he is not sacked or resigned by himself, then definitely from tomorrow onwards, they will apply their strike, and they will start from the Menshia Hospital, which will spread into Kumasi and the region in general.
So, are we certain that we'll see that industrial action where, of course, the nurses may withdraw their services?
Yes, they did not mince words. They said that, yes, they are ready to do that. And in fact, they are very serious about it. They are saying that they do not have any problem with the doctor in question. If the doctor should come today to start work, they are willing to work with her, and be able to work as colleagues in the office. But they have a problem with father, who they say, in fact, disrespected them and the entire nurse fraternity. And so if he really wants to apologize, then he should come properly before them in person and render the apology at the same location where he spewed the invectives. And then that, they believe, could calm nerves.
All right, then, Erastus, we want to thank you. And, of course, you keep monitoring events and give us some updates later on. But for now, we take you to the Central Region. 7 communities surrounding the University of Cape Coast have been demonstrating against the university over what they say is an unlawful takeover of their lands. The communities, namely Kwesi Pra and its environs, say the current Vice-Chancellor of the university has been intimidating and gagging chiefs in the 7 communities with lawsuits over their own lands. The communities are therefore calling on the President and the Paramount Chief of the Ogwa traditional area and all well-meaning Ghanaians to intervene and bring some sort of, and bring the university's Vice-Chancellor to order. We have more in this report for you.
The demonstrators, 7 communities that surround the University of Cape Coast, say the university has taken them for granted and is illegally taking over their lands. They say all efforts to get the university to settle the issues that border on their land have not yielded results. The communities Kwesi Pra, Apioska, Kwapro, Akotocho, Kakomdo and Amamuma say the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast has not shown good faith in their dealings with the traditional authorities and the people in these communities. The chiefs also accuse the university and the VC for using the school lands for their businesses and denigrating their ancestral tombs. Nana Intifo, the 4th, then Puntuhin of Kwapro, presented a petition on behalf of the 7 aggrieved communities to the Central Regional Minister.
We, the Nananum, have written to UCC authorities and other high authorities proposing for a dialogue between the community elders and university authorities on how to solve this pending issue. But UCC authorities turned a blind eye to the issues. The issues are: 1, we need settlements, or the University of Cape Coast Authority should cooperate to solve land dispute boundary. 2, UCC authority do not respect elders of the communities. 3, neglecting corporate social responsibilities. 4, destroying our ancestors' tombs and playing field of Kakumodo and Akotoche. Restricts movements of community members from one community to another. We do not want the Vice-Chancellor in our community sending community members to court day in, day out. The University of Cape Coast, led by Vice-Chancellor, is using the school land for business purposes. 1, superannuation hostel, pharmacy owned by Vice-Chancellor, organizing shop, banks, snake hostel, filling station and supermarket. So it is with this reason that we want to embark on this peaceful work to present our petition to the regional minister, back to university administration, for them to know how serious we are in making sure issues are addressed.
Receiving the petition on behalf of the Central Regional Minister, the budget officer for the Central Regional Coordinating Council, Bless Kwame Dake, assured the demonstrators that the Regional Minister and the Coordinating Council would take the issues up to the relevant authorities and address the impasse as soon as possible.
Who designated me to come over to receive this petition from the university community on behalf of the Regional Coordinating Council. A number of issues have been raised in the petition, and the Honorable Regional Minister is not going to sit on it, but would take it to the appropriate course as early as possible. She had already started dealing with this issue at the RESEC level, but it so happens that this demonstration had to take place for the community to express their views on what is happening. So, in good faith, the regional minister of the Central Regional Coordinating Council is going to take the matter up and send it to the appropriate courtesses so that it can be resolved as early as possible, because we need a very peaceful environment to ensure development of our region.
The petition was also presented to the Central Regional Police Commander and the university authorities. They also called on the president and the paramount chief of the Cape Coast traditional area and all well-meaning Ghanaians to intervene and bring the VC and the university to order. Nana Moises reports, read to you.
And now the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources in charge of Lands and Forestry, Benito Owusu-Bio, says he is hopeful an ongoing joint technical meeting here in Accra between the Ghana Boundaries Commission and the Côte d'Ivoire Boundary Commission will develop an action plan for the implementation of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. On the sidelines of the opening of the ceremony, he indicated that the meeting will also facilitate the strengthening of existing collaboration between Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire towards addressing issues along the boundaries of the two countries. We'll hear from the Deputy Minister shortly, but first let's hear from the National Coordinator of the Ghana Boundary Commission, Major General Emmanuel Kotia.
This is the third of a series of meetings between Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. Now, our mandates as a boundary commission give us the authority to be able to negotiate with sister countries who have boundary commissions on land, maritime, and air issues that come up. However, and in particular with Côte d'Ivoire, what we have done is that we have gone ahead to form what we call the Mixed Technical Committee. Under the Mixed Technical Committee, we have two subcommittees that work on the frameworks regarding legal issues, and then we also have other administrative issues that they are handling based on technical issues on land and maritime. Now, based on that, this meeting is a follow-up of the inaugural meeting in Abidjan, where we started a conversation on how to be able to reaffirm our land boundaries and to make a follow-up on the ITLUS ruling so far as our maritime boundary is concerned. In this meeting, we are aiming to come out with a framework that will guide us in the implementation of the ITLUS ruling. On land boundaries, we are hoping that we will come out with ideas in which we should be able to reaffirm all land boundaries within the next 5 years. So that is clearly the key objective so far this meeting is concerned. In addition, the two boundary commissions have realized that we have some river bodies that serve as common boundary between Ghana and Togo. Now, there have been a lot of illegal mining going along those roads, so we want to also facilitate our security agencies from both sides to intervene in stopping this illegal mining that is going on, because it is helping one to distract the water bodies, which is providing drinking water to communities along the boundaries.
And we can now hear from the Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister in charge of Lands and Forestry, Benito Owusu-Bio. He says he's hopeful the ongoing joint technical meeting here in Accra will help develop an action plan for the implementation of the ITLUS ruling.
The technical committees are very necessary. You know, we have aspects in land boundary issues, other aspects are also on the sea and maritime. Yes, so we have the maritime committee, the land boundary committees, and then the legal committee. You can see that on the part of Ghana, we have representatives from the Attorney General's Department, we have people from the Navy, we have people also from the other sectors. So it's an intersectorial and international committee that is meeting here. We have the boundary pillars along our land boundaries. There are some of them that are old, some which have been through weather and other human activity are misplaced. There's the need for us to jointly make sure that we collaborate to bring them back and position them on the exact locations where they used to be. Today's mention of galamsey or illegal mining has to do with where we have mining illegally on the water bodies, especially rivers like the Channel and the River Bia, which flows in between the two countries. Yes, the devastating effects of the rivers affect both countries. The river flows downstream into La Côte d'Ivoire and upstream from Ghana. Yes, they've also voiced out their concern, just like us in Ghana. We are also not happy, and we are making sure that we would be able to address the issue of illegal mining, especially on the river bodies. You are aware, as we speak now, river guards have been trained. The government has procured speedboats, and soon they are going to start operation and monitoring of the river bodies. You know, the initial aspect where you go, you drive them away, and then when you leave, they come back. That wasn't helping. Now, these boats, speed boats, and then the river guards, we've been trained how to swim. And we'll be giving the necessary equipment like swimsuits and then everything. We'll be there, and when they say they are monitoring, they monitor from there where it enters the sea up to where upstream where the river finds its source. So that's what is being done, and I know with this new approach we'll be able to stop illegal mining, especially on our river bodies. You need the full complement of all equipment. You need drones, you need speedboats, you need human resource, trained human resource to man all this, the military, and then you and I, including the media. If when we all come together and we collaborate, we'll be able to end this matter. So we need that.
And speaking through a translator, the Executive Secretary of the Côte d'Ivoire Boundary Commission, Konate, indicated that his country is sensitizing its people about the devastating effects of illegal mining. He is optimistic the joint technical meeting will also help with long-lasting solutions to the problem.
The technical committees are very necessary. You know, we have aspects in land boundary issues, other aspects are also on the sea and maritime. Yes, so we have the maritime committee, the land boundary committees, and then the legal committee. You can see that on the part of Ghana, we have representatives from the Attorney General's Department, we have people from the Navy, we have people also from the other sectors. So it's an intersectorial and international committee that is meeting here. We have the boundary pillars along our land boundaries. There are some of them that are old, some which have been through weather and other human activity are in place. There's the need for us to jointly make sure that we collaborate to bring them back and position them on the exact locations where they used to be. Today's mention of galamsey or illegal mining has to do with where we have mining illegally on the water bodies, especially rivers like the Tano and the River Bia, which flows in between the two countries.
Apologies for that. Now, Ghana's employment statistics show that about 1.74 million persons within 15 years and above were unemployed in the first quarter of this year. This number is out of the current total working population of 13 million. According to the labor experts, unemployment rate in Ghana is expected to reach 4.80% by the end of 2022. To arrest the situation, the Youth Employment Agency, YEA, has signed a memorandum of understanding with a German organization called INSAC Germany to equip the youth to get the requisite skills. Rosemary Ejewa witnessed the signing ceremony and now reports. At the signing of an MOU between the Youth Employment Agency and INSAC Germany, the Chief Executive Officer, Kofi Ba Ejapong, said the YEA stands prepared to meet the skills needed of all organizations in private sector and investors in ensuring quality labor.
We call on private investors, both local and foreign, industry players, public, corporations, and enterprises to rely on YEA for their labor needs. And INSAC, we thank you very much for today. I think this is a major step. We are calling on people. We are calling on private sector. Government alone cannot employ every Ghanaian. The private sector needs to step in and help. And this springboard opportunity provided by YEA should be tapped into it.
The agreement will give a training and employment opportunity to over 700 Ghanaian artisans during the construction and rehabilitation of 64.7 kilometers Ashaman to Ekosombo dual carriage road. Mr. Japon gives further details.
The MOU presents us with an opportunity to recruit over 700 artisans to be employed by INZAC Germany for the construction and rehabilitation of 64.7 kilometers Ashaman to Akosombo dual carriage road. By this, the recruits are not only going to earn a living for themselves through this employment, but will proudly contribute their expertise to the construction of this major state asset. Ladies and gentlemen, it is critical to highlight that this agreement has been carefully put together with the welfare and safety of workers at heart. Workers to be employed under this agreement will have their income taxes, social security contributions, and other statutory payments made on their behalf by INZAC Germany.
Rosemary Ejewa's report, read to you. And our new location, a blend of old and new cast and the hype around COVID-19. That's what you can expect in the 6th edition, or season, I should say, of the popular youth-oriented TV series, You Only Lived Once. YOLO, as it's popularly referred to. Producers say the diversity of cast, issues and location will endear the show even more to both young and the old as they educate them through entertainment. There's more in the following report by Jacqueline Yeboah. The series is a sequel of the popular Ghanaian TV series Things We Do for Love. It is informative, educational and entertaining for both young and old people and guides young people through the challenges of adolescence. The series has attracted millions of viewers in Ghana and around the world. At the launch of the 6th season in Accra, Deputy Chief of Party of the Accelerating Social Behavior and Change Activity, funded by USAID, J.K. Ofori said funds should expect a diverse edition of the new season, which entails a new certain location and a blend of old and new cast.
To basically tie in the adolescents with the old YOLO staff, you have new and old, cast, basically. This season also is basically being filmed in northern Ghana, Accra, and other locations.
He also revealed that there will be more education on current social issues.
And with all the various intervention areas we mentioned earlier during the speeches. So it's going to be adolescent sexual and reproductive health, family planning, nutrition, maternal and child health, malaria, COVID, and other intervention areas. So it's a series of things. It's integrated.
The show is supported by the Ghana Health Service and Director of Health Promotions at the service. Dr. Abuaji Da Costa is excited COVID-19 is their main focus for this season.
Now, some of the topics that we hope, obviously, to cover will be COVID. You know how stressful the country has been, and so it will be important to use this Euro series for vaccination uptake.
The 6th season of YOLO is expected to be premiered in January 2023 in Accra. Jacqueline Yeboah and Shalom Debash's report for JoyNews. And be on the lookout for the new and exciting season of YOLO. We take you now to Europe. Germany's government, which has been in power for almost a year now, is hoping to move forward with plans to make getting Germany citizenship easier, particularly dual citizenship. But the planned changes are causing a stir, particularly amongst the conservative opposition. For more, we cross over now to our DW correspondent, Kate Brady, who has the latest for us. Kate, just bring us up to speed with what people's rights are currently, and what does the government intend to do with this change in policy?
Well, as things stand, foreigners can officially only apply for citizenship after 8 years, and besides a few particular exceptions, only EU citizens can have dual citizenship in Germany. But according to this draft law, that would change and it would be easier to obtain dual citizenship, and people could apply for German citizenship after 5 years or even 3 years in certain circumstances. And these changes would affect millions of lives here. Chancellor Olaf Scholz pointed in particular in recent days to the millions of migrant workers that helped rebuild Germany, but many of them were Turkish or are Turkish, and it meant that they were never able to actually get a dual Turkish-German citizenship even all these years later. And the same applies to their descendants too, as they've had to choose between citizenships, which also means that they have no voting rights here in Germany if they chose the Turkish citizenship. So that's raised a lot of questions about what Germany's citizenship rules really mean for democracy too.
And I'm just wondering what points are up for debate?
Well, the reforms have been criticised in particular by the Conservative opposition bloc here, the CDU-CSU, who say the changes go too far. One MP described the planned reforms as flogging German citizenship, claiming that the plans don't encourage integration and that they would contribute to more illegal migration to Germany. The fact is, however, that to obtain German citizenship, people have to fulfil a whole list of requirements, including proving that they can support themselves financially, as well as proving an expected level of German language proficiency too.
Of course, Germany, like many other countries, is facing a huge shortage of skilled workers. Where does this actually fit into the whole debate?
Well, this is an extremely important part of the debate, as Germany needs to attract an estimated 400,000 skilled migrants every year to keep up with the demand at the moment. But an ageing population and low birth rates have had a huge effect on the labour market over the past few decades. But one of the biggest criticisms of the German system for years has been the lack of long-term perspectives for skilled workers migrating to Germany. But a change in citizenship rights would certainly change that going forward, and this comes at a time too when Germany is trying to develop a new system to attract more skilled workers too.
Kate Brady with our partners DW, and that's where we draw the curtains on the pulse here on the Joy News channel. I'm Blessed Sogah. Do log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates on our stories for you there. We'll see you again next time. Let's talk showbiz. It's next. Please stay.